Good evening. My name is Neil Morbey. I'm a mindfulness practitioner and an adrenaline junkie. And tonight I want to tell you the story of how I came from being a rock climber to a dancer and a mindfulness practitioner. So to start with, I want to tell you, rather than explaining how to live your life, I'd rather say, do whatever you want. This is kind of how I lived my life for pretty much the first half, and it was great. I had a really good time. But really, there's some key lessons that I want to share with you. This is me, aged 11. I was a very short kid with a big smile and a big heart. I used to love bringing people together. It was my favorite activity. I used to love making people happy and making people who didn't have friends have friends. As you can see, I was also a big adventurer. I loved judo and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, life was pretty great. Now, one summer, my mum took me to Portugal with my brother. I was about 12 years old, and I remember we went out bodyboarding. She let us go by ourselves, and I really wanted to show my brother no fear, adventure. So we went really far out from the shoreline. Now, there was this one moment. I was getting churned over by the waves, no control of my body, and I remember I made a decision to go with the flow and enjoy it. It was the only thing I could do, really. So we came back onto the board, checked my brother was okay. He seemed fine. He could see the look in my eyes and the big grin on my face. Ooh. And I shouted at the waves, "Is that the best you can do?" It was this adventurous spirit that carried me through the summer. And then, as I came into secondary school, I had a completely different shift. I started to face social dangers, bullying, overwhelm from subjects that I didn't enjoy. I found secondary school really hard, and I faced these dangers with a completely different attitude. I made myself small, I went under the radar, and really I was a completely different person. And so first of all, I started to interpret some of these truths as meaningful about me. I want to ask, why is it that sometimes I face social dangers with this kind of response, but I face physical dangers with a kind of adventure? I was focused on the adventure rather than on the dangers themselves. Now, I also have scoliosis, and this happened because of going to the gym too early. Basically, I started going to the gym at 14 years old. I was trying to build a lot of muscle into my body because I thought that would impress the girls and would scare off the boys. But of course, the result was I had to have major surgery at 17 years old. Now, that's not a great coping mechanism, and I ended up having a lot of pain from the recovery process. I remember as I was in the midst of that pain, I made a decision. I felt ashamed of the weakness in my body, and I felt it was time to be independent. It was time to spend the rest of my life having fun. So I took up rock climbing. Okay, so this is me. Someone's put a banana skin on the finishing holds of a climb in North Wales. Now, rock climbing brought me a lot of fun. It made me feel independent, powerful. It gave me strength. It gave me a kind of control over my own fate. Now, it's interesting that this is a coping mechanism. And in a way, we all have coping mechanisms. We've all dealt with stuff in life. And now we're doing whatever coping mechanisms are working for us. Some of us become shopaholics. Some of us become workaholics. Oh, thank you. And nothing's wrong with that. Nothing's wrong with being a workaholic. As long as it's providing you with what you need in life, it can be perfectly healthy and practical. But I want us to question our interpretations, our beliefs about ourselves, and why we're doing the things we're doing, and if there's fear there present. So for me, rock climbing became my coping strategy, and I loved it. I threw myself in head first with complete disregard for my own health. Now, in order to give you an idea of what it's like, I'm going to put you in the place of a rock climber. This is me on a climb in Pembrokeshire, in Wales, but I'd like you to imagine this is you. Okay, so you're standing on a rock ledge, an inch wide, holding onto some very small holds. Your arms are starting to ache. You've got a heavy harness around you, and the rock above you steepens into an overhang. Beneath you, your climbing partner looks worried. You can see the rope dangling, swinging in the wind. Your foot starts to shake, and you start to imagine yourself falling, maybe all the way into the sea. And you think to yourself, shit, I'm in trouble. Shit, what am I doing here? Now this feeling is actually what I lived for and what I dreaded. This was the feeling of being alive. Adrenaline-fueled decisions had to be made. I could either choose to embrace the falling or to make positive action and start to climb. So at this moment, I would say, first of all, we take a breath. Long, deep breath. And we say, it's okay. I'm okay. I can do this. With that, we start to move. Positive action, and the body seems to know what to do. It has its natural sense of balance, and you become climbing in flow without any thought. Because you're being playful, you start to use different tactics, and you overcome the overhang. It's around about this point, you might say something profound, like, woohoo! As you reach the top, your excitement turns to relief. Take a big breath, take in the view, and take in your achievement, and have gratitude for life. And it was this feeling as well that I lived for. It was the moving from excitement to relief. For me, that was the feeling of being alive. Now, I took to climbing to some new extremes. Here's some deep water soloing shots, climbing without ropes above deep water. And then even just climbing without ropes full stop. I had 3 major climbing accidents in my early career. This one particularly was on the Outer Hebrides, where I pulled off a rock about the size of a surfboard, narrowly missing my belay partner, nearly killing us both. I was going into this with a sense of playfulness, but without much presence. I didn't really care about my life, and I didn't really care what impact my death might have on other people. Somewhere along the line, I had interpreted my life didn't matter. Fun was the only thing that mattered. So I want to question all of us. Are we doing things that's harmful to ourselves? Have our habits become harmful? And are we really thinking about the impact that we have on other people? So anyway, it's not all negative. I took a lot of positives from climbing. It gave me composure under pressure. It gave me abilities to use my breath and my words to control my state of mind. I also learned about trusting my body, and it took me to beautiful places around the world. This is Yosemite National Park. This is New Zealand. But in all of this, I was still chasing strength. Beneath it all was a fear that I was weak. I had shame about being weak, and I wasn't facing up to that. I was afraid to feel it. So around about my 30th year, I decided to move to Bristol. Climbing was starting to lose its luster. There was a hole it couldn't fill. And so I started looking at new areas of life. First of all, mindfulness and self-inquiry. Now, a big part of this is meditation. When I started meditating, basically, which is just sitting down and paying attention to the sensations in your body with full acceptance of what they are. Now, I found that incredibly hard. I would find that the pain in my shoulder blades from my scoliosis surgery and in my body from rock climbing had a lot of emotion, and I used to cry, or I used to shake violently. But when I combined it with self-inquiry, which is a gentle questioning of your own beliefs, I started to realize there are positive perspectives in everything, and that emotions are simply the language of the body. And if you listen to them carefully, you can understand the positive perspectives in everything. I also started to get involved in workshops in emotional literacy and communication in relationships. Now, these were group workshops, and they're happening now for adults. These are places where you can go, you can test boundaries, you can test communication, you can learn about things like consent, rejection, jealousy, and empathy. This opened a whole new world to me. Here was me climbing on my own, and now I got to be vulnerable and expose myself in groups. And it massively accelerated my learning about myself and about other people. I started to really understand my own desires and fears. But finally, the most fun one was self-expression. I've always wanted to dance. Now, I was very scared about this when I was little because dancing, I didn't really have much of a sense of rhythm, and all the dancers seemed to get all the girls. So I wanted to dance for that reason, but also I wanted connection. I discovered something called blues dancing. Blues dancing is gender neutral, which means you can dance with boys or girls, and it's about connection and expression, not really so much about dance steps or lead-follow dynamic. It's an expressive dance, and it leaves space for both partners to add their contribution to the dance. Some people describe it as a conversation. Now, when I first started blues dancing, there was a lot of tension in my body. I was feeling like walking around holding my tension because maybe that made me more manly or something. But really it was a deep shame. And people who danced with me could feel this, and it would be destructive to the connection. So I remember this one story from when I was dancing in Zurich. And this girl, she could feel the tension, but she kindly stopped me mid-dance. She took my hands, wrapped them around her body, and led me through 3 exquisite dances. She showed me the power of vulnerability and shameless self-expression. And I relaxed so much that evening, and I started to understand what dance was about. She also left space for me to express, which was really key. So I want to ask us, who amongst us is playing alone because we're afraid? Who of us are holding shame in our bodies? Are we afraid to be seen, to be really vulnerable? And can we start to question that with kindness? Now, just before I finish, there's this whole thing about styles. As you start to play together with other people, I've noticed you require structures and styles. I mean, they're essential, really. They're kind of agreements between people so you can play the same game. Now, this happens not only in dance, but it happens in society with laws. It happens in relationships. It happens everywhere where there's people, where there's more than one. What I want is very important as we go forward is that we don't take the styles and the structures to be the important thing. That underneath there were reasons why we started dancing, why we started getting engaged in relationships. And it was these reasons of connectivity, of connection and fun and play and being present that are really important. And I think these could also be important in the classroom. I've found they accelerate my learning. So why can't they accelerate learning of children as well? As I found as a teenager, some of these messages about confidence, about self-esteem, would have been crucial for me. And I would like these to be present in current school day teaching. So I'm wondering whether these 3 subjects can become core in our teaching. Mindfulness, emotional literacy, and communication in relationships particularly. Mindfulness is already starting to happen in schools, and I'm part of that. But I particularly want to push these other subjects. Now, rock climbing, it was great, and I don't regret it for a second. But playing together, this is us in a dance in Slovenia. And I've discovered community. I've discovered that part of love is accepting that you do need other people, you need connection. And being vulnerable can feel as scary as any single climbing move. But it's so worth it. So what I want to leave you with is just this idea that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be vulnerable. But come into whatever challenges you're doing, big or small, with what moves you rather than what you should do, and with a sense of playfulness and presence. Thank you.